This will be a split presentation between myself and Amelia Dorsey. It's really focused on getting started in research specific to the state of Delaware, where we have additional resources that we just wanted to go over kind of the basic resources that exist and some additional resources that you can implement that exist within our network. All right. No, it's not letting me advance my slide. Okay, so some of the special opportunities for research that exist in Delaware. I'll start with DE-INBRE. So this is the website, very simple, easy to find. And the sort of overview of the projects that exist are either pilot projects or research projects. The pilot projects are 1-year grants. The research projects are 2-year grants. Currently, there are only pilot projects anticipated within the next year that I'm aware of. So I'll go through those in their current state. And so these consist of different types of pilot projects, depending upon the amount of resources that you need, who would be involved leading the study, and what type of resources you would need to be successful. So the first is a takeoff award, and that's specific to junior faculty members, and you don't need any preliminary data for these awards. There are next booster awards that are available to either senior or junior faculty. And the idea is to develop a project that would ultimately be competitive for a future award through the INBRE itself or other smaller funding organizations. There's also a high-end core facility award, and this is essentially like a complement to the existing core facility awards that give approximately $4,000 for a specific project through a core facility within the INBRE and Delaware network. And those are available on the website. You can get a sense for what cores exist, what they're capable of doing, and there's a contact for every core facility as well. So this high-end core facility award would give additional funds beyond what would be available typically for a core facility award. There's also Delaware Data Science Awards that are specific for like biomedical data set use. And so they would fund the analysis of some of these more focused biomedical or statistical data sets. The next funding cycle is due to be announced in the fall of 2026. But there's some pre-work that needs to be done, like a letter of intent, sort of planning those projects that occurs in the summertime. So be on the lookout for these. If you're anticipating applying for one, it's good to start thinking about what you might need to do that several months in advance. This is an example of the website. Oh, sorry, they're banging in the background. The website for the Delaware INBRE core facility voucher program. This is the smaller resources. So I lied, it's actually $5,000 for a single voucher, and you can use a multi-core voucher that's up to $10,000 maximum. These are on a sort of rolling basis. So if you determine that you do need these resources, you can go here and apply for these. There's also INBRE professional development resources available online. And so you can go to this website. It's off the Delaware INBRE website. It specifically outlines lots of different training resources, networking resources, and webinars and continuing education that you can do that are asynchronous and would be on your schedule. The next major funding opportunity in the state of Delaware is the Excel Delaware CTR, and this is their website. They have multiple different types of funding opportunities, and they're on different cycles, so I'll go through the major ones. So the first would be the Mentored Research Development Award, and this is useful for those who are clinicians as well, because it provides protected time specific for grant writing. And this can provide up to 40% effort or $10,000 for up to 6 months of dedicated time to submit a grant. There are multiple annual cycles, so you can plan this around a major grant submission, blocking aside time that you might need to be successful in your grant writing endeavor. There are also the clinical and translational pilot grants. These range in duration from 12 to 18 months and provide up to $80,000 total They're on an annual cycle that starts in May, but there is a letter of intent months prior, so this also has to be planned for in advance. There are shovel-ready grants that are designed to provide a set amount of funds to acquire preliminary data for an unfunded award that needed additional work in order to be successful. And the goal would be to try to create those resources so that you would be successful on a subsequent submission. There are a new funding mechanism in the last couple of years, the Interdisciplinary New Collaboration Award, or INC Awards. They provide $50,000 per year for 2 years as an MPI, so multiple PI award for new collaborations that would have a translational focus. These are some of the resources related to Excel that are available on their website as well. And this is particularly helpful because of the burden of paperwork that must be completed for an NIH grant is pretty significant. And so they'll actually provide all of these basic instructions and blank pages and example paperwork that you can use to develop all of the components for successful funding, either through CTR or INBRE or through an NIH submission. And with that, I will trade off for Amelia.
Perfect.
And you can just let me know when you want me to advance the slide.
Actually, I can just go ahead and share my screen because I have
Oh,
the PowerPoint.
perfect.
Yeah. There
Okay.
we go. Thanks, Liz. Yeah, so I will go ahead and talk about some of the resources available. And I will say this is a bit more specific to Nemours, but that being said, if you or a colleague are planning on collaborating with Nemours, this is still a resource that can be utilized. So, firstly, I just kind of wanted to go over some of the common barriers that you or, again, your colleagues may be familiar with and have even run into yourself. So, a lot of times, in terms of study startup or meeting some of those deadlines, like Liz was talking about, when it comes to preparing for your grant submission or application, there's just a lot of changing processes. You may be coming up with administrative burden, uninformed or misinformed about important steps that are leading up to your submission, unsure sure of where to go for legal resources or IRB, especially if this is a collaboration. You know, you have things like data use agreements, MTAs, reliance agreements, and things of that nature that need to be addressed to get your study up and running, even after you've been awarded a grant or a funding mechanism. And so, really, what to do with that, but that's where I come in and who I am in terms of being a grant and compliance advisor and navigator for Nemours and teams who are collaborating with Nemours. So what do? I can help with study startup, IRB applications, FTA applications, training and mentoring new study team members, as well as guidance with that legal process, ensuring appropriate staff have been assigned for after study approval. So the best part is once you get that funding mechanism, then it is time to get a clinical research coordinator and time for me to hand off to them. Pilot studies, as Liz was mentioning, and connection with correct resources and compliant processes. A lot of times it just is a pretty burdensome to try and navigate the system. And I think Rob always says this, but if it's going to take you longer than 10 minutes, it's best to just reach out, because this is my job. My job is to help and get you all to a point where your studies can be up and running, receive that IRB approval, and connect you with the appropriate resources to make sure that you don't hit a long stall with where you need to be. And so, how do you reach us? We are contacted internally through mentoring at Nemours and externally as mentoring at ext.nemours.org. I've worked with Christiana, worked with Delaware. So, please reach out, and we're happy to provide guidance. And we all want you to, pursue every opportunity that's afforded to you. Are there any questions for us? That is the end.